I owed my sister Linda big time. Throughout my final year of college, she had been my rock, helping me with tutoring, paying off some of my debts, and even lying on my behalf when I was accused of smoking weed. But never, not in my wildest dreams, could I have imagined paying her back like this. I stared at the lace bra in my hands for what felt like an eternity before finally heading to the bathroom to shave my body. Every stroke of the razor felt like I was shedding a layer of myself, preparing for what Linda called the ultimate test of my manhood. I questioned myself repeatedly, and I confronted Linda more times than I could count, but deep down, I knew I couldn't say no. She had always been there for me, and now that she needed my help, I couldn't back out. Linda was in the final round of interviews for her dream job as a brand manager at Chanel, the biggest fashion brand in the world. Competition was fierce, and she knew the top head of the committee and a big recruiter, James, had a thing for sissies. Her plan? For me to go on one date with him, charm him, and give her a competitive edge. I couldn't wrap my head around it. Why would a man like James prefer guys dressed as women? Why not just date a real woman? The only way to get answers was to go through with it. I stood in front of the mirror, staring at my reflection. My completely shaved body and the lacy lingerie hugging my frame made me feel like I was looking at a stranger. The surrealness of the situation hit me hard. I couldn't believe I was about to do this. Linda glued a blonde wig onto my head and meticulously applied makeup, ensuring I looked as passable as possible. Her attention to detail was uncanny. I almost didn't recognize myself. But questions swirled in my mind. Why hadn't she asked one of her gay friends for this? Why me? Did she think I was feminine enough to pull this off? As she added the final touches to my look, carefully applying layers of makeup and lipstick, I couldn't shake the thought, did my sister see me as more feminine than her gay friends? The question lingered, filling my mind with a swirl of doubt and curiosity. But no matter how uneasy I felt, there was no turning back now. This was for Linda, and I owed her that much. After patting my chest with breast forms, she dressed me in a snug black dress and high heels, then guided me through basic mannerisms and gestures. As I nervously awaited my date, Linda snapped photos and recorded videos, claiming they were for memories. The moment finally arrived. James pulled up in a luxury car, stepping out in a crisp white suit and sunglasses. Though shorter than me, he exuded confidence and masculinity, his personality larger than life. He greeted Linda warmly before turning to me, extending his hand and planting a kiss on my palm. My cheeks flushed, and I felt a wave of panic as Linda introduced me as Nancy. Balancing awkwardly on high heels, I tiptoed to his car and slid into the back seat with him, my nerves on edge. James quickly grew chatty, regaling me with tales of how he became a recruiter for Chanel. His attempts at flirting were obvious, peppering his stories with repeated mentions of Chanel, as though assuming I was one of those sissies, enamored by luxury brands and big names. I was a bit taken aback when he brought me to a crowded fashion show. We chatted for a while, and following Linda's instructions, I shared the fabricated story about how I'd always felt uncomfortable as a man, and had long yearned to embrace being a sissy. I could hardly believe the words leaving my mouth. When I admitted that this is my first date as a sissy, his eyes lit up with genuine warmth. He pulled me into a comforting hug, reassuring me with kindness. It wasn't supposed to feel this good, yet somehow it did. I wasn't sure why, but it stirred something unexpected deep within me. I kept putting in a good word for Linda, and James assured me she was the top candidate for the position. I exhaled a sigh of relief, knowing I'd done my part, but the evening was far from over. James mentioned he had a surprise for me and led me backstage, where I found myself surrounded by actresses and models preparing for the runway. It was fascinating to witness the behind-the-scenes workings of one of the biggest fashion shows. But what completely stunned me was when James suddenly scooped me into his arms and insisted I walk on stage with him. My heart raced with fear and shock. I wasn't ready for this. Yet, as it turned out, I was the main event. And James, the show's organizer, had planned it all along. He carried me out onto the runway, holding me close as we faced the audience together. The crowd erupted into applause and cheers, their energy electrifying. I plastered on a smile, trying to appear composed, but deep inside, I was trembling with terror. The experience was surreal, and James later confided that even the top celebrities rarely had the honor of closing the show like I had. To my astonishment, he then offered me a multi-million-dollar contract, inviting me to partner with him for future shows. Overwhelmed, I could hardly process what had just happened. He gave me some time to consider his offer before whisking me away to the after-party, where we mingled with celebrities and influencers. The night was a whirlwind, leaving me dazed and wondering how my life had taken such an unexpected turn. I won't lie. The star-studded party made me feel special, almost like I belonged in that glamorous world. James kept showering me with attention and gestures so thoughtful, they felt unmatched by anyone I'd ever dated. Wait, why was I comparing James to the women I've dated? My thoughts were spiraling in ways I couldn't quite understand. Sensing my growing unease, James gently suggested we step away from the crowd. He took me to a quiet, private hotel room, insisting I needed to relax. I agreed, grateful for the escape. What I didn't expect was for him to pull me into a warm hug and start massaging my shoulders. It felt surprisingly good, so I didn't protest. As his hands worked their way to my neck, I let out an involuntary whimper, and before I realized it, he had turned me to face him. Lights dimmed down. Standing there, he guided my tall frame to lean down, closing the gap between us until his lips met mine. I could have stopped him, but I didn't. Instead, I gave in, returning the kiss, our tongues entwining as he slowly led me toward the bedroom. My mind raced with questions and doubts, but one thing was clear. This felt undeniably good. Before I knew it, I was in bed with him, dressed in nothing but lingerie, lost in the moment as we kissed passionately. And then, reality hit me like a tidal wave. I had to stop. Pulling away abruptly, I apologized for ending things so suddenly. James, ever understanding, reassured me that it was okay, making me feel at ease before driving me home. When we arrived, Linda was anxiously waiting for me, her nervous expression melting into curiosity the moment she saw me walk through the door. After returning home, I ripped off the wig, discarded the outfit and lingerie, and threw on a nightdress. I confronted Linda, my emotions spilling over after the roller coaster date with James. "Why did you choose me for this? Do you question my sexuality?" I demanded, my voice trembling. Linda approached me, her expression serious, and revealed something that shook me to my core. She confessed she had chosen me not because I was feminine, but precisely because I was the least feminine man she knew. "I could have picked any of my gay friends," she said, "but James has a particular taste. He prefers tall, strong men who are willing to dress up and embrace being a sissy for him. That's how he feels powerful, by knowing he can turn any man into his. That's how he overcomes his insecurity of being short and genetically bald." She explained that her only intention was for me to go on a friendly date, vouch for her, and help her land the job. But her words haunted me, and I couldn't get James out of my mind. I needed closure, so I decided to confront him and make it clear that I wasn't one of his sissies. Once Linda secured the position at Chanel, I reached out to James, but he wouldn't take my calls. His secretaries stonewalled me at every turn. Frustrated, I asked Linda for help, and after some persuasion, she informed me that James would only meet with Nancy. Reluctantly, I let Linda transform me once again, this time into a humiliating ensemble, a red skirt and a skimpy red top that barely covered my assets. When I finally stood before James, sitting smugly in his chair, his sly smile only fueled my anger. I stormed in and spilled everything, the truth about why I had gone along with this charade. James listened calmly, his expression unreadable. Then, with a knowing smirk, he stepped closer and told me he'd known the truth all along. His words were like velvet as he said, "You're not man enough for other women. Men like you are meant to be pampered, treated like princesses, and adored by men like me. With every touch, my resolve crumbled. My anger gave way to soft moans as his charm overwhelmed me. What began as a confrontation became an affirmation of something deeper. When his lips met mine, there was no hesitation this time, only passion. We continued where we had left off, his office turning into an intimate sanctuary as he guided me to his private bedroom. That night, he took my virginity, and with it, my lingering doubts about who I was. The next morning, I signed a multi-million-dollar contract to become the star performer in James's fashion shows. Linda and I started working together on various projects, and she couldn't have been happier to have me around as Nancy. What began with nerves and hesitation soon turned into confidence, and I quickly became a regular showstopper, with audiences eagerly anticipating my grand entrance on the runway. Not long after, I moved into James's mansion, embracing a life of luxury and indulgence as his trophy. I still don't fully understand how a short, petite, bald man like him managed to win me over, make me question my sexuality, and ultimately let go of my manhood. But as I settled into my new life, living like a princess in a dreamlike world, those questions slowly faded. Experiencing lovemaking with James became something I not only accepted, but found myself looking forward to with eagerness. Our relationship, however, is unconventional. James thrives on challenges and frequently brings new sissies into our home. At first, I struggled with this dynamic, but over time, I grew accustomed to it. I even made a few close friends among the others who shared our bed, creating a unique bond with them. Would you like to join me and my fellow sissies in this journey? Like this video and subscribe to my channel for more content like this.